Shiksha disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So that makes Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur the grandfather of all ISKCON devotees following Srila Prabhupada. So just before we start Caitanya Charitamrita, I thought we would read Srila Prabhupada's offering to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur on this day in 1935. How many years ago is that?
86.
That's 21.
Years ago. Okay,
91.
yeah. So he wrote this offering, and it was published in the Harmonist magazine, which was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's English periodical. But it was, Srila Prabhupada thought it was lost. But then when the devotees started preaching in England in 1969, 68, 69, just down the street from the first temple was the British Museum. Has anybody gone to the British Museum here? No. It's like the #1 museum of antiquities in England, and because the British Empire was all over the world, so they gathered all kinds of artifacts and valuables from everywhere, at least part of the British Empire. So a devotee there, Guru Das, he found it in one of those periodicals, and he showed it to Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada was very happy. So it was recovered. And when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur read this offering, he commented, he was very pleased, and he commented that whatever Srila Prabhupada writes, you publish at the Gaudiya Math at that time. So there was one particular stanza that he especially appreciated, and he pointed out that he liked. Maybe you know it, but I'll ask you at the end, after we read it, if you can, and each of you can guess if you don't know which one it is. Okay. Oh, and just like we have pranam mantras to Srila Prabhupada, Nama Om and Namaste Saraswati Devi, there are 4 pranam mantras for Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. You might know them. I thought we could just look at one of them just now. It goes, Namaste, which you understand, Namaste, obeisances to you. Gauravani, Srimurtaye. Srimurtaye means the personified teachings of Lord Caitanya. Namaste Gauravani Srimurtaye. Dinatarine. Dinatarine, as you can understand, means the savior of the fallen people. Rupanuga Virudhapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine. And he eliminates or gets rid of, Harine means eliminates, those teachings that are contrary to the Siddhanta or the conclusions of Rupa Goswami in the line of Lord Caitanya. Because specifically at the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, there were so many pseudo Vaishnava sects that were teaching all kinds of stuff, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was unique in that he put his foot down and preached against. Not only he positively explained Krishna Bhakti as given by Rupa Goswami, but he pointed out the deviations and mistakes in those philosophies that were deviating. Namaste Gauravani Srimurtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine. Okay, here's the offering, and you're gonna guess which of these was particularly appreciated. I might call on you. So, adore ye all the happy day, blessed than heaven, sweeter than May. When he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, his divine grace. O my master, the evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up thy candle. Struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, his divine grace. Number 3, misled we are, all going astray. Save us, Lord, our fervent pray. Wonder thy ways, to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. Number 4, forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls, paying most heavy the illusion's toll. Darkness around, all untrace, the only hope, his divine grace. 5, message of service thou hast brought, a healthful life as Caitanya wrought. Unknown to all, it's full of grace. That's your gift, your divine grace. 6, absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity thou hast moved. This gives us a life anew and fresh. Worship thy feet, your divine grace. 7, had you not come, who had told the message of Krishna, forceful and bold? That's your right. You have the mace. Save me a fallen, your divine grace. Then 8, and the last one. The line of service as drawn by you is pleasing and healthy, like morning dew. The oldest of all, but in new dress. Miracle done, your divine grace. 8 stanzas. Okay. So, which one do you think? If you don't know, if you don't know, if you know already, that's not fair. But Mother Vindyavali, what do you think? I picked on you. Do you have a choice?
The last one, I thought that the
Last
oldest.
one is very nice. That's true. It was very nice last one.
The oldest.
The line of service as drawn by you is pleasing and healthy like morning dew. The oldest of all, but in a new dress. Miracle done, your divine grace. Very good guess, but not correct.
Okay. I don't know that.
That's okay. That's okay. They're all good. Any other? Who can I pick on next? Who can I pick on next? I'll ask Ram Shyam Prabhu. Ram Shyam Prabhu. Which one would you say?
It was so melodious. I was just listening, so I do not capture the words, Prabhuji. So
okay.
Yeah.
So you abstain. Okay, that's fair. It's okay. Okay. Shall I ask Kavita?
Is it the one where the first line is absolute is sentient?
Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. Yes. That's the one. Very good. That is the one. Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. This gives us life, anew and fresh. Worship thy feet, your divine grace. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that Srila Prabhupada had understood his mind. His mind is the important part. So very good. Okay. So we're going to at 11 o'clock today, we're going to read from the Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhava, and particularly a chapter entitled Revolutionary Preacher of the Truth, chapter 2 in the first volume of the Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhava. So we'll do that at 11. And then this afternoon at 5 o'clock, we have the Bhagavad Gita. And then we'll chant the Guru Vashtakam prayers for Srila Bhakti Siddhanta and Srila Prabhupada. And then listen to a lecture that Srila Prabhupada gave on this day in 1975 in Atlanta on the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And we'll get a brief commentary also by His Grace Balabhadra Prabhu, who was there at the time, and then other comments may be given too. Okay. So we'll chant Gauranga Bolite Habe. Well, that's our new mantra now. Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharir Hari Hari Bolite Nayane Babeni Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharir
Hari Hari
Hari Hari Bolite
Nayane
Babeni Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharir Hari Hari Bolite Nayane Babeni
Gauranga Bolite Habe
Pulaka Sharir Hari Hari Bolite Nayane Babeni. Yes. Ar kobe nitai chandir Koruna hoibe Sangsar Bashanamo Kabe tucha habe Arkabe nitai chandar Karuna hoibe Samsara Bashanamo Kabe tucha habe. Yes. Arkabe nitai chander Koruna hoibe Sangsar Vashanamo Kabe tucha habe Arkabe nitai chander Koruna hoibe Samsar Vashanamo Kabe tucha habe Bishaya Chadiya Kabe Shuddha habe mana Kabe hamo herabo Bi Vrindavan
Bisaya Kabe Kabe
Rupa Raghunath Pade Hoibe Akuti Kabe Hamo Bhujabase Jugala Piriti Rupa Raghunath Pade Hoibe Akuti Kabe Hamo Bhujabase Jugala Piriti Rupa Raghunath Pade Raho Mor Ash Prarthana Koraye Shada Narotam Das
Rupa Raghunath
Nath Pade Prarthana Koraye Sada Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharir Hari Hari Bolite Nayane Babeni Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharir Hari Hari Bolite Nayane Babeni Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtotara Sata Shishimar His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtotara Sata Shishimar His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai.
Jai.
Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ganga Mai Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jamuna Mai Ki Jai.
Jai.
Tulsi Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Bhakti Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shamaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Gaur Prem Anande.
Hari
Hari
Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
All glory to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga Hari Hari Bo. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutare Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirbhishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jaya
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jai Jai Shri
Shri
Chaitanya
Jai
Jai
Nityananda.
Nityananda
Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai
Jai
Advaita
Advaita
Chandra
Chandra
Jaya
Jai
Gaur
Gaur
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda.
Vrinda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda.
Jai
Jai
Jaya
Jai
Shri
Shri
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Jaya
Jai
Nityananda.
Nityananda
Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai
Jai
Advaita
Advaita
Chandra
Chandra
Jaya
Jai
Gaur
Gaur
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda.
Vrinda.
We're reading Caitanya Caritamrita Adya Lila. We're in the chapter here of Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. And we're here on text number, this is chapter 7, text number 51.
তোমারে নিন্দয় যত সন্ন্যাসীরগণ শুনিতে না পারি ফাটে হৃদয় শ্রবণ
The Mayavadi sannyasis are all criticizing your holiness. We cannot tolerate hearing such criticism, for this blasphemy breaks our hearts. Purport. This is a manifestation of real love for Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There are 3 categories of Vaishnavas: Kanishta Adhikaris, Madhyam Adhikaris, and Uttama Adhikaris. The Kanishta Adhikari, or devotee in the lowest stage of Vaishnav life, has firm faith but is not familiar with the conclusions of the Shastras. The devotee in the second stage, the Madhyam Adhikari, is completely aware of the Shastra conclusion and has firm faith in his Guru and the Lord. He, therefore, avoiding non-devotees, preaches to the innocent. However, the Mahabhagavat, or Uttama Adhikari, the devotee in the highest stage of devotional life, does not see anyone as being against the Vaishnava principles, for he regards everyone as a Vaishnava but himself. This is the essence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction that one be more tolerant than a tree and think oneself lower than the straw in the street. Trinadapi shunichena torodapi sahishnuna. However, even if a devotee is in the Uttama Bhagavat status, he must come down to the second status of life, Madhyam Adhikari, to be a preacher. For a preacher should not tolerate blasphemy against another Vaishnava. Although a Kanishta Adhikari also cannot tolerate such blasphemy, he is not competent to stop it by citing Shastric evidences. Therefore, Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar are understood to be Kanishta Adhikaris because they could not refute the arguments of the sannyasis in Benares. They appealed to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to take action, for they felt they could not tolerate such criticism, although they also could not stop it. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurin Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this is very interesting, the different levels of devotees. As Lord Chaitanya's philosophy is known as Achintya Bed Abed Tattva. You know this. Achintya means inconceivably, Bed means different, Abed means one, not different. Different and non-different. Bed Abed Tattva. The truth is not different and so there's oneness in diversity. So there's 3 levels of Vaishnavas. They're all Vaishnavas, but even within Vaishnavas, there's distinction. Kanishta, Madhyam, and Uttama. And besides that, they're all spirit souls. They're all eternal servants of Krishna by nature. They're all of the Paraprakriti, transcendental energy or spiritual energy as part, but still there's gradation. So unity in diversity, but even within the unity there is difference. Iron and gold are both metals. Yes, but they're for different purposes. Or another example that Sanatana Goswami says is just like bell metal can be transformed into gold by an alchemical process. Similarly, by the initiation or by the bona fide instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, even a person born in a non-Brahmin family can become a Brahmin by those instructions and initiation. So this is unity and diversity. Achintya Bed Abed Tattva. And it's very interesting also that Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar, Srila Prabhupada identifies them, even though they are personal associates, close associates of Lord Chaitanya. He says that they're on the Kanishta Adhikari platform. Why is that? Because they could not refute the philosophical criticisms from Shastra that the Mayavadis of Benares were giving to Lord Chaitanya. Next verse.
I need some clarification here on one small thing, Prabhuji. I couldn't understand one thing. So in the Uttama Adhikari, it said he considers everybody as Vaishnav but himself. Why is he accepting himself? Why is he excluding himself, the Uttama Adhikari?
Srila Prabhupada states that because of that person, his or her extreme humility.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He said therefore he quotes that verse, Trinada pi sunichena tarora pi sahushnuna. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
ইহা শুনি রহে প্রভু ঈষৎ হাসিয়া সেই কালে এক বিপ্র মিলিল আসিয়া.
Oh, it's Hashia smiling. Oh, okay. While Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar were thus talking with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he only smiled slightly and remained silent. At that time, a Brahmin came there to meet the Lord. Purport. Because the blasphemy was cast against Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he did not feel sorry, and therefore he was smiling. This is ideal Vaishnava behavior. One should not become angry upon hearing criticism of himself or herself. But if other Vaishnavas are criticized, one must be prepared to act as previously suggested. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very compassionate for his pure devotees, Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar. Therefore, by his grace, this Brahmin immediately came to him. By his omnipotency, the Lord created the situation for the happiness of his devotees. So here again, we note that even though in the previous purport, Srila Prabhupada identified Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar Acharya as being Kanishta Adhikaris, here they're identified also as pure devotees. So a Kanishta Adhikari can also be a pure devotee, meaning they don't have any even though they're not very elevated in understanding of in their spiritual knowledge and the Shastras, because they have no other desire or no other inclination but to please Krishna. Therefore, they're pure devotees. They can be pure devotees. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhyanavritam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhakti uttama. Bhakti, topmost devotion or pure devotion, is when there's no other desire for fruitive activities, getting stuff, or philosophical speculation, but just doing things for Krishna's pleasure. That's pure devotional service. And another note here is that Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that Lord Chaitanya, being the Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is arranging things for the edification of his devotees and for the Mayavadi sannyasis too. He's arranging everything. It's not happening just by chance here. One time, when Srila Prabhupada was in Hyderabad, at the home of G. Pullareddy, G. Pullareddy's wife was asking, well, Lord Ramachandra, if he was God, how is it that he allowed Sita Devi, or he was fooled by the golden deer to be taken away from Sita Devi? How is that? He knows everything. So there was he had his particular purpose to do that, so that one of his purposes was to chastise and do away with Ravan, who was causing all kinds of trouble. So this was his lila. So similarly here, Lord Chaitanya is getting a lot of things done by this activity, we'll see, of going to meet the Mayavadi sannyasis in Benares. Oh, another thing is, if this were me and somebody started criticizing me, of course I'm going to get angry. That's because I'm not very advanced. But Lord Chaitanya, what was his reaction? They're criticizing him. They're calling him. He just he mildly smiles or chuckles a little bit. That's it. Okay, text 53.
আশি নিবেদন করে চরণে ধরিয়া এক বস্তু মাগো দেহ প্রসন্ন হইয়া.
The Brahmin immediately fell at the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and requested him to accept his proposal in a joyful mood. Purport. The Vedic injunctions state, Tad vidhi panipatena pariprashnena sevaya. One must approach a superior authority in humbleness. One cannot challenge a superior authority, but with great submission, one can submit his proposal for acceptance by the spiritual master or spiritual authorities. Submit his proposal for acceptance, yeah. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an ideal teacher by his personal behavior, and so are all his disciples. Thus, this Brahmin, being purified in association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, followed these principles in submitting his request to the higher authority. He fell down at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then spoke as follows. So in his approach to Lord Chaitanya, he didn't say, hey, you're a sannyasi, you're supposed to be above dualities. Why don't you go? You should be going to come to my house, even though there's Mayavadi sannyasis there. He didn't say it that way. He said, oh, please, I know usually you don't come, but if you could please, in humbleness and in a joyful mood, he said, please do this, make this one exception for me. So it's a little different in his approach.
সকল সন্ন্যাসী মই কইন নিমন্ত্রণ তুমি যদি আইসো পূর্ণ হয় মোর মন।
My dear Lord, I have invited all the sannyasis of Benares to my home. My desires will be fulfilled if you also accept my invitation. Purport. This Brahmin knew that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the only Vaishnava sannyasi in Benares at that time, and all others were Mayavadis. It is the duty of a grihastha to sometimes invite sannyasis to take food at his home. This grihastha Brahmin wanted to invite all the sannyasis to his house, but he also knew that it would be very difficult to induce Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to accept such an invitation because the Mayavadi sannyasis would be present. Therefore, he fell down at his feet and fervently appealed to the Lord to be compassionate and grant his request. Thus he humbly submitted his desire. You know, generally speaking, in the material world, everybody has to experience, suffer the results or enjoy the results of their past karma. That's the law of nature is there. But mameva ye prapadyante mayametam tarantite. By surrendering to Krishna, one can become free from that law of nature by Krishna's grace. So similarly here, even Lord Chaitanya, even though his general practice was to avoid intimate mixing with the Mayavadi sannyasis. Why is that? Because the Mayavadi sannyasis, generally, they're always insulting or degrading, deriding the personal form of Krishna. So, as a rule, he would avoid that association. But by his own arrangement and by the request of this Brahmin who was purified by Lord Chaitanya's association, he agreed to accept the invitation because of his fervent prayer. So similarly, when we're chanting the holy names of God, engaging in devotional service, it's not just a routine. It's not that just by going through the motions, okay, Bhakti Shastri time. Just by going through the motions, it's going to happen. Everything's going to be okay. But one should do one's devotional activities with great care and attention and love, and with that attitude and humility, and with that attitude, Lord Chaitanya and Krishna will reciprocate, just as he did here.
না যাহ সন্ন্যাসী গোষ্ঠী ইহা আমি জানি মোরে অনুগ্রহ করো নিমন্ত্রণ মানি।
My dear Lord, I know that you never mix with other sannyasis, but please be merciful unto me and accept my invitation. Purport. An acharya, or great personality of the Vaishnava school, is very strict in his principles. But although he is hard as a thunderbolt, sometimes he is soft as a rose. Thus, actually, he is independent. He follows all the rules and regulations strictly, but sometimes he slackens his policy. It was known that Lord Chaitanya never mixed with Mayavadi sannyasis, yet he conceded to the request of the Brahmin as stated in the next verse. So, for example, also Srila Prabhupada, when he first went to San Francisco, the devotees arranged a mantra rock dance where there was, hard acid rock being played, and all the people in the audience were practically intoxicated, and a lot of the people were not dressed properly and revealing in all kinds of ways. So many intoxicated people. But Srila Prabhupada went there, even though it wasn't very pure atmosphere. He went there and chanted Hare Krishna and spoke on Krishna consciousness, and it had a tremendous effect. So ordinarily he wouldn't go, but on the request of his disciples to uplift these people, it had a tremendous effect. So similarly, here Lord Chaitanya, even though ordinarily, in the translation it says he doesn't mix with other sannyasis, Lord Chaitanya mixed with other Vaishnava sannyasis all the time. Swarup Damodar Goswami was a Vaishnava sannyasi, Brahmananda Bharati, Brahmananda Puri, Paramananda Puri, all these were sannyasis, Damodar Pandit. They're also, but specifically not mixed with Mayavadi sannyasis. But he made an exception here.
প্রভু হাসি নিমন্ত্রণ কইল অঙ্গীকার সন্ন্যাসীরে কৃপা লাগি এ ভঙ্গি তাহার.
Lord Chaitanya smiled and accepted the invitation of the Brahmin. He made this gesture to show his mercy to the Mayavadi sannyasis. Purport. Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar appealed to the lotus feet of the Lord regarding their grief at the criticism of him by the sannyasis in Benares. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu merely smiled, yet he wanted to fulfill the desires of his devotees. And the opportunity came when the Brahmin came to request him to accept his invitation to be present in the midst of the other sannyasis. This coincidence was made possible by the omnipotency of the Lord.
সে বিপ্র জানেন প্রভু না যান কারো ঘরে তাহার প্রেরণায় তারে অত্যাগ্রহ.
The Brahmin knew that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never went to anyone else's house. Yet due to inspiration from the Lord, he earnestly requested him to accept this invitation. Never went to anyone else's house. He was staying with Chandrasekharacharya and taking all of his meals at Tapan Mishra's house. So that was what he was doing during his stay there. So he wasn't going anywhere else, but in this case, he made this exception.
আর দিনে গেলা প্রভু সে বিপ্র ভবনে দেখিলেন বসিয়াছেন সন্ন্যাসীর গণে.
The next day, when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the house of that Brahmin, he saw all the sannyasis of Benares sitting there. So it must have been a pretty big house.
সবা নমস্করি গেলা পাদ প্রক্ষালন করি বসিলা সেই স্থানে.
As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the sannyasis, he immediately offered obeisances. And then he went to wash his feet. After washing his feet, he sat down by the place where he had done so. Purport. By offering his obeisances to the Mayavadi sannyasis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very clearly exhibited his humbleness to everyone. Vaishnavas must not be disrespectful to anyone, to say nothing of a sannyasi. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches amanina manadena. One should always be respectful to others, but one should not demand respect for himself. Amanina manadena. Not looking for respect for oneself, giving respect to others. A sannyasi should always walk barefoot. And therefore, when he enters a temple or a society of devotees, he should first wash his feet and then sit down in a proper place. In India, it is still the prevalent custom that one put his shoes in a specified place and then enter the temple barefoot after washing his feet. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an ideal acharya, and those who follow in his footsteps should practice the methods of devotional service that he teaches us.
বসিয়া করিলা কিছু ঐশ্বর্য প্রকাশ, মহা তেজময় বপু কোটি সূর্যাভাস.
After sitting on the ground, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his mystic power by manifesting an effulgence as brilliant as the illumination of millions of suns. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna is full of all potencies. Therefore, it is not remarkable for him to manifest the illumination of millions of suns. Lord Sri Krishna is known as Yogeshwar, the master of all mystic powers. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself. Therefore, he can exhibit any mystic power. The Brahma Samhita says, Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti kotishvashesha vasudadi vibhuti binnam tad brahma nishkalamanantamashesha bhutam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. That transcendental effulgence, which is pervading all the universes, it is more powerful than millions of suns, is but the rays emanating from the body of Govinda. So here Lord Chaitanya is showing that. Another interesting point is that even though he's coming, usually when you come to somebody's house, they offer you a nice seat, isn't it? Have a seat here, sit nicely. Apparently the Brahmin didn't offer him a nice seat here for whatever reason. We'll find out later the cause.
প্রভাবে আকর্ষিল সব সন্ন্যাসীর মন, উঠিল সন্ন্যাসী সব ছাড়িয়া আসন.
When the sannyasis saw the brilliant illumination of the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, their minds were attracted, and they all immediately gave up their sitting places and stood in respect. Purport. To draw the attention of common men, sometimes saintly persons, acharyas, and teachers exhibit extraordinary opulences. This is necessary to attract the attention of fools. But a saintly person should not misuse such power for personal sense gratification, like false saints who describe themselves to be God. Even a magician can exhibit extraordinary feats which are not understandable to common men. But this does not mean the magician is God. It is a most sinful activity to attract attention by exhibiting mystic powers and utilizing this opportunity to declare oneself to be God. A real saintly person never declares himself to be God, but always places himself in the position of a servant of God. For a servant of God, there is no need to exhibit mystic powers, and he does not like to do so. But on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a humble servant of God performs his activities in such a wonderful way that no common man can dare try to act like him. Yet a saintly person never takes credit for such actions because he knows very well that when wonderful things are done on his behalf by the grace of the Supreme Lord, all credit goes to the master and not the servant. In Hyderabad in 1975, there was a big pandal program, and each evening for many days, tens of thousands of people attended. And at the end of the Prabhupada's talk, people would write questions down, and then they would be asked. They would submit them to a devotee there, and then one after the other they'd be asked. So one question was, Swamiji, so if you're really a person of God, why don't you perform a miracle right now for us? So Srila Prabhupada, his answer, which you might know already, but his answer was, are you blind? Look around. Do you see all these men and women here sitting on the stage? So many devotees were there. He said, just a short time ago, they were all involved in intoxication, illicit sex, meat eating, and gambling. And now they're all chanting the holy names and avoiding those things and engaging in Krishna service 24 hours. He said, this is Lord Chaitanya's miracle, but you must open your eyes to see it like that. So he said that. That was a very good answer. That's how he answered that. And another time, Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, and a magician came. And the devotees brought the magician to Srila Prabhupada. And he was with Srila Prabhupada watching. He was doing things like pulling coins out of people's ears and things like that, like magicians do. And so Srila Prabhupada was laughing, and everybody was enjoying that. And then all of a sudden, Srila Prabhupada became very grave, and he said, you can do this magic very well, but do you know how to save someone from death? Do you know that magic? And the man, he became very humble, and he began to inquire then from Srila Prabhupada about the process of devotional service. So he used it as an opportunity to preach Krishna consciousness. Very interesting, these two things. One more verse.
প্রকাশানন্দ নামে সর্ব সন্ন্যাসী প্রধান প্রভুকে কহিল কিছু করিয়া সম্মান.
I can't read that. It's not on my. Oh, there. The leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis present was named Prakashananda Saraswati, and after standing up, he addressed Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as follows with great respect. As Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed respect to all the Mayavadi sannyasis, similarly, the leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis, Prakashananda, also showed his respects to the Lord. Hare Krishna. Other comments, questions, corrections?
Yes, Prabhu, you were mentioning about Pularedi. Actually,
G. Pularedi, yeah.
Yeah, I serve as a temple there in Hyderabad for 2 years almost. And I heard that he's the one who donated the Hyderabad temple.
Yes. There's a very interesting story about it. Do you know more about that?
Yeah, you can tell him.
Well, it was on a piece of land, because G. Pularedi is famous in Hyderabad and maybe in surrounding areas as being a sweet seller. What do they call it in Hindi? Mitai wala? Yeah. So yes. Yeah, so they had their sweet factory. They were cooking, Brahmins were cooking their sweets there. But he got many complaints that people were, the Brahmins were saying that there were ghosts. So they couldn't do the work properly. They could come and they'd get scared off by the ghosts. So he knew, G. Pularedi knew that wherever there's regular constant chanting of the holy names of God, no ghost can come. So he gave the land then to ISKCON, and there was the temple was built there.
Radha Madan Mohan temple.
Yeah. Nampally Station Road in the.
Yeah, I lived there for two years.
Very nice. Big, large, very tall deities, isn't it?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. And Srila Prabhupada's talks there, they were called also Bhagavad Dharma discourses. They were on the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, of the teachings of Lord Rishabdev. the very incredibly powerful speaking that Prabhupada gave. They're still available. You can hear them online.
Yeah. And also he said that Lord Chaitanya, an effulgent when he came, he was like an effulgent. Also in the song of that, like Gora Arati, the Bahu Koti Chandra Jini.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Lord Chaitanya sign like millions of moon.
So here it's like moons, in there it's like sun.
Yeah.
Here it's suns, there's moon, but still very, very bright.
Yeah.
Bahu Koti Chandra Jini. Yeah, that's
Badana Ujvala, yeah.
Yeah, that's a rendition of when Lord Chaitanya sat down on the seat of Vishnu in Srivas Thakur's house, and then there was Mahaprakash Leela, Lord Chaitanya's accepted service there at that time. Unusually.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions, comments, corrections, additions?
Thank you, Vishnu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kirtan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. It's an amazing situation where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu solved a very critical situation dealing with such powerful Mayavadis. Many things can be learned. I think one is from his personal teaching. Amanina manadena kirtanya sadahari. Means he knows he was not getting respect from them.
Yes.
At the same time, he offered all respect to them.
Yes.
And plus, also I see that he gave his special mercy, by revealing his effulgence. People are attracted to opulence. Some people, almost everybody, when they see the opulence, then only they will be attracted, right? Awe and reverence.
Yeah.
Revealing his effulgence. That's the way he showed his mercy, I'm thinking, right?
Yes, one way. He'll show it in different ways. That's one way, sure. I remember the first time I met Hare Krishna devotees was at the college campus, and they were chanting outside on the lawn, and there were of course there were always some Christian people. There were Campus Crusade for Christ people, and they were, telling the devotees they were from the devil and all this kind of thing. There, so what specifically impressed me at the time was the devotees didn't get angry. Ordinarily, you start saying, "Hey, you're from the devil," but the devotees, infused by the instructions and the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, they didn't get angry at all, but they responded with knowledge, and so that impressed me very much. So the same kind of thing Lord Chaitanya did here. Amanina, not getting disturbed if they're criticized, and give Krishna consciousness. Thank you, Krishna Kirtan Prabhu. Good observation. Yes.
I think Renuka Mataji has raised her hand.
Oh yeah, there's a hand. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. When you mentioned Pullareddy, I remembered going every summer we used to go to Hyderabad from our hometown of Eluru, and our uncle used to take us to this Pullareddy sweet shop. Pullareddy is like a brand of sweets. It's like class apart. Like you have a million sweet shops in Hyderabad and all over India, but Pullareddy sweets are the best. And they also make savories and hot snacks too. So next time I go to Hyderabad, I'll bring you a box of Pullareddy sweets for the whole temple.
Please.
Yeah. They're like brand, and they use 100% pure ghee, and their recipes, you can't replicate their recipes. You cannot have another Pullareddy sweet made by someone else. They're that good. And I have seen the man Pullareddy sitting in his shop. I think it was in 80s, when I was in my middle school or something. I visited Hyderabad, and he was sitting. He's a very skinny man, and he's very a man of small words and all that. And I'm glad he donated to the temple. I did not know that. So next time I go to Hyderabad, I'll visit the temple.
And when Srila Prabhupada went there to Hyderabad, he was invited to Pullareddy's house, which was outside of the city on a hill.
Yeah.
And we all went there. And Srila Prabhupada said that I have come here because you are a devotee. and I go only where the devotees are. And he was very complimentary to Mr. Pullareddy, and it wasn't just as a to butter him up, but because he really appreciated, because he was a very sincere devotional person, very much so. So Prabhupada very much appreciated that.
Yeah, and he's like I guess he's like a sort of a kind of a mini rich man in Hyderabad. And when I went to see him, he had like, the dhoti and the regular, like, sannyasi clothes. Like he's a very simply dressed man. He did not have like, suits or whatever it is. Like, he's a very simple man, like the village kind of whatever dresses, like, the sannyasis people wear, like, he was dressed very simple when I saw him. I still remember that image. So I'm glad that he had some connection to ISKCON. And the other thing that you were saying in today's call about the magician and Prabhupada saying, can you save a man from death? But in reality, doctors save people from death, EMTs save people from death, and, nurses save people from death. And, if people choke or something, regular people who can do CPR and all these things, they do save people from death, right, Prabhuji? So how do you connect that to the question then when Prabhupada asked this magician, can you save people from death?
Good question. We, of course, no one can be, a person can be temporarily saved from death by medical arrangements or by medicine or by first aid and stuff like that. But death will come, next day, next week, next month. There's no question about that. And so we're not discounting the medical treatments, but no medical treatment will free a person from death forever. And that's what Lord Krishna recommends in Bhagavad Gita, that if you go, once you come to my abode, there will be no other death at all. Whereas the saving a person by giving CPR might extend their life, questionably might extend their life a little, but they won't, they'll die shortly thereafter. 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 1 year, 5 years, something like that.
Got it. One more question. When the Brahmin invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for a debate with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu versus the Mayavadi sannyasis, wasn't Chaitanya Mahaprabhu afraid because he's like one man, and I don't know the head count of these people in this group, the 1 versus 100, 1 versus 10. Wasn't he afraid of that head count? Because usually it's a human reflection. Oh, me, and I'm just me on this side, and there are like 10 people or like 100 people on the other side. Can I even
Yes, you'd think from a human point of view, you'd think he would be intimidated by the difference, probably 100 to 1. But since he was Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and he was all powerful enough, so that confidence was able to took over. He wasn't worried about that.
So if you think that you have Krishna on your side, and you firmly believe that Krishna is on your side, I guess we can apply the same principle too, right?
Good point. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada, he met so many criticisms and things, but he always came out successful, always, because he had Krishna with him at all times. Similarly, any devotee who's actually surrendered to Krishna and takes shelter of Krishna, Krishna will help them.
Thank you. That's a very good takeaway for me, because you nailed it. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vishnu.
Thank you very much.
Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Vishnu.
Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Just Vishnu Prabhu, do you want to remind everybody of the programs today for Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur? I know you mentioned them in the beginning of class.
Yeah. Some people weren't there. Yeah. At 11 o'clock, we're reading from the Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhava, which is on chapter, The Revolutionary Preacher. And then at 5 o'clock, there's Bhagavad Gita, then Guru Vastakam prayers. Then we'll hear Srila Prabhupada's talk on the appearance of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in 1975, which is 46 years ago. and then there'll be a brief discussion with led by Balabhadra Prabhu after that, who was there at the time. Is there anything else?
Thank you, Prabhu.
No, that's
Okay.
all.
The reading
Covered
is 11 to 12.
11 o'clock, 11 to 12.
Okay.
Oh, I don't
Thank
know,
you
is
very
Mother Shamagori on there? Is she still on there? Because I think she has the digital version. Is Mother Shamagori?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Do you have the digital version of the Bhakti Siddhanta by Baba?
It's online. I have not downloaded, Prabhuji.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in
It'd be great if we
PDF.
could show it on the screen while I don't know if that's possible. We could arrange to show it on the screen while we're just reading and discussing.
Yeah, I'll look at it, Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, it's
Have
also,
a great day, everyone.
by the way, it's a fast till noontime. I don't know if anybody, but that was out there too. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for mentioning.
Thank you very much. Prabhu.
Okay, devotees,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Panchakalptarubhishya kripa
Jai
sindhibhishya
Vaishnavibhyo
Vaishnavibhyo
Vaishnavibhyo Namo. Hare Krishna.